That is not a logic problem, but a subconscious programming written by someone else's fear in a body that has long since grown up and moved somewhere safe, and that program does not care what I know. It only knows that it was told a long time ago by someone it trusted. I'm Rose, and welcome to Rewire with Rose. Last week I told you about a 9-year-old girl walking 2 kilometers home from a church competition, hiding her tears. Let me start with something that will make you feel seen. You are not the problem. Your intelligence is not the problem. Your understanding is not even the problem. So knowing was never the missing piece. The missing piece is somewhere the knowing cannot reach. You may be sitting with a question right now, and it's a reasonable question, an important one. If I can see it clearly now, why has seeing it not been enough to change it? My grandmother was afraid of robbers. Not occasionally, but consistently. I have no idea why she was afraid of them, but she was. And it was a fear that she carried and expressed and repeated in the presence of our grandchildren for years. We were never attacked, not once. But to this day, I have lived in gated communities with security, with walls and guards, and every reasonable precaution. And I'm still more cautious than most people around me. I know I'm safe. My conscious mind has done the calculation. The threat level is low. The environment is secure. I know that. And the nervousness is still there. That is not a logic problem, but a subconscious programming written by someone else's fear in a body that has long since grown up and moved somewhere safe, and that program does not care what I know. It only knows that it was told a long time ago by someone it trusted. And that is what we are talking about today. So welcome back to Season 2 of Rewire with Rose. Last week I told you about a 9-year-old girl walking 2 kilometers home from a church competition, hiding her tears. And I told you about the belief she wrote about herself on that road. And I asked you to find your own version of that moment. If you did that, if you found the day and the room and the conclusion, you may be sitting with a question right now. And it's a reasonable question, an important one. If I can see it clearly now, why has seeing it not been enough to change it? I have known about my patterns for years, I've understood intellectually where they came from, and yet they keep showing up. So the hesitation before the opportunity, maybe the discomfort when somebody celebrates me, maybe the time that you're told you're looking good or you're smart, you're discounting it. Maybe it's the nervousness in a gated community with the guards outside your door. Why does knowing better never seem to be enough? And today we answer that question. I'm Rose, and welcome to Rewire with Rose. Let me start with something that will make you feel seen. You are not the problem. Your intelligence is not the problem. Your understanding is not even the problem. Most people who struggle with money know very well how to budget. Most people who struggle with habits such as smoking, excessive drinking, eating the wrong things, they know exactly what they need to do. Most leaders who disappear from rooms they have earned know they should stay. Most ambitious people who undercharge for their services know that their rates are too low. Most people who are more cautious than necessary in a safe and secure place, they know that the threat level is low. So knowing was never the missing piece. The missing piece is somewhere the knowing cannot reach. So remember, we've been talking about Dr. Bruce Lipton's research. The Stanford University scientists that we've been drawing upon in this season. He found that 95% of your daily life is run by your subconscious mind. It's not the planning part, not the part that reads books and understands patterns or listens to podcasts like this one, but the storage part. The part built before you turned 7 years old or before you turned 10 years old. It does not speak the language of logic, as we have been able to establish. It does not respond to understanding. It does not update when you read a book. It does not update when you listen to a great podcast. It does not change because you've identified the pattern. It speaks a completely different language, the language of repetition, the language of emotion, the language of safety. And until you reach it in its own language, it keeps running the same program, no matter how clearly you can see it. And here is the science that explains my grandmother's reaction. There's a scientist named Konrad Lorenz who won the Nobel Prize in the year 1973. And for his research on imprinting, he found that the nervous system, in moments of intense emotion, writes what it experiences as permanent instruction. Not a lesson, not a suggestion, an instruction. So think about that. How many times were you able to recall that you were intensely emotional? If you were brought up by an African mother like me, I'm sure you can remember many such moments where you experienced intense emotion. And the intensity of the emotion is what determines how deep the writing goes. So my grandmother's fear was not mild. It was intense. It was expressed in a context of love, which is what made it easy for my nervous system to absorb it without resistance, without questioning. She was not trying to scare me. She was trying to protect me. And the nervous system does not distinguish between fear that is useful and fear that is borrowed. It just receives it. It files it away. And it runs it. Even in a secure, gated community, even many years later, 40 years later, even when every conscious calculation says you are safe, the file does not care about the calculation. The file cares about the instruction it received. And the instruction says, be careful. The world out there is not safe. So you find yourself checking whether the door is locked several times, You find yourself paying attention to every slight noise that you hear outside your compound, even when it's not necessary. So if logic cannot reach the subconscious mind, what can? There are three things. And these three things are repetition, emotion, and state. So let me explain each one of them. Repetition first. The subconscious mind was built by experience repeated over time. Not a single reading, not a single insight, by the same thing happening again and again, until the nervous system accepted it as a fact. So my grandmother did not say, be careful once. She said it many times over. And the repetition is what made the program permanent. And that repetition is also what it takes to change it, to update it. Not reading about a new belief once, living it repeatedly, in real rooms, with real stakes, over real time. So this is what I have found in my own life. Not a dramatic overnight transformation. Small incremental steps. The more I have taken up space, the more I have spoken up, the more I have done things that I'm afraid of, the more I realized it was not as dangerous as the program said it was. Not because I convinced myself intellectually, but because I accumulated evidence experientially, one room at a time, one conversation at a time, one moment of staying when the old pattern said go. And that is repetition doing the work that logic could not. Emotion is second, and the subconscious mind writes most deeply under intense emotion. And that is why the tambourine moment at 9 years old for me went deeper than 10 years of rational self-reflection in adulthood. The emotion at 9 was acute. The reflection at 40 or 50 is calm. And the nervous system responds more powerfully to the acute than to the calm. Which means that if you want to write a new program, you need to feel the new thing. Not just think it, feel it. The moment you spoke up in a meeting and the room received you, let that land in your body. Do not rush past it. Do not deflect it. Do not tell them to stop. Let it in. When someone compliments you, sit with that moment. Feel the emotion. Because the nervous system is listening. And every time you let a good thing land, you are writing a new file to sit alongside the old one. You are not erasing the 9-year-old's conclusion, but you are giving the adult evidence that contradicts it. And over time, that evidence accumulates, and the new file begins to speak louder than the old one. The third point is state. And this one is more practical. Your brain operates in different states, depending on how awake and how alert you are. When you're fully awake and active, as I assume you might be now, your brain is in what scientists call the beta state. Thinking, planning, reacting, problem solving. When you slow down and become calm, you move into a different state, and this is the alpha state. And when you are at the edge of sleep, just falling under or just waking up, the point where we say you're dozing off, you enter what is called theta state. And theta is where the subconscious mind is most open. It is the most receptive. It's the most permeable. The conscious filter, the one that says, I will evaluate this before I let it in, it relaxes in theta. And that is why theta state is very critical. So remember the time that maybe before you go to bed, you're doom scrolling on TikTok or Instagram or wherever it is. You're getting into theta state, and it's a very critical time in the state of your mind. And new information can reach the subconscious more directly than at any other time. The 20 minutes before you sleep, the 20 minutes after you wake up, these are the two most powerful windows. So they are not for scrolling. They are not for planning. They are for speaking truth to the system that needs to hear it. Now here is what I want you to notice. Everything I've just described, the theta window, the 20 minutes before you sleep, the 20 minutes after waking, the practice of speaking truth to the system that needs to hear it. This is not really new. This is ancient with a modern scientific name. It's a verse in the Bible that I've known ever since I was a child. And it's Hebrews 11, verse 1. It says that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I used to read that as a statement of belief about trusting what you cannot yet prove. And that's it. But sitting with everything we have covered in this season, I now read it as something more specific, more precise, more practical than I've ever understood it to be. And that is substance. Not feeling, not hope, not wish, substance. Something real enough for the nervous system to file as evidence. The evidence of things not seen. Evidence. The word the subconscious mind runs on. For things that have not yet arrived in the visible world. And here is what that means for the work we are doing. The 9-year-old's program is running because the nervous system has decades of evidence filed away. Evidence it experienced as real. The PTIs, the long walk home, the conclusion written on that road, all of it filed away. All of it referenced. Every time a new situation arrives that resembles the old one, to update that program, to give the nervous system a new file to run, you need new evidence. Real enough for the subconscious to receive. And that is exactly what faith does. Practiced faith. Morning prayer that speaks aloud when you are becoming, before the day has given you any proof. Morning prayer that speaks aloud what you are becoming, before the day has given you any proof. Evening meditation on truth, before the nervous system carries the weight of the day into your sleep. The act of feeling in your body, not just your mind, the substance of the woman you're becoming before the outer world has confirmed our arrival. And that is not bypassing reality. It is how subconscious actually updates. So you're not pretending the cage is not there. You are speaking to the nervous system in the only language it understands, the language of felt experience, and telling it a new story repeatedly. In the windows when it is most open, with the weight of your full belief behind every word, your faith was not just giving you comfort, it was giving you the most neurologically precise tool available for rewriting a program that logic alone will never reach. The word was ahead of the science. The Bible was ahead of science by approximately 2,000 years. And what your faith calls renewing the mind, what it calls speaking things that are not as though they are, what it calls the substance of things hoped for, the neuroscience calls it theta state programming. Same window, same mechanism, same result. A nervous system that begins to believe what it has been practicing before the outer world has caught up. And that's not magic. That is faith working exactly the way it was designed to work. Now, let me give you a fourth tool, the one that you can use during your waking hours, between the theta windows. Your brain cannot refuse a question. It will always search for an answer. And this is not just to motivate you. It is a neurological fact, which means the quality of the question you ask yourself directly shapes the quality of your life. Most of us are asking disempowering questions without realizing it. Like, for example, why do I always hold back? Why can I never just receive a compliment? Why does this keep happening to me? And the brain faithfully, automatically, without judgment, will find an answer. And it goes back to every piece of stored evidence that confirms the question and returns it. You always hold back because of the tambourine. You cannot receive compliments because of the pity highs that you saw. And this keeps happening because the program is still running, and that is what disempowering questions do. They send the subconscious back to the old file in your system. Power questions send it somewhere else. Instead of asking, why do I always hold back? Maybe you can ask, what would the version of me who knows a value do in this room right now? Instead of asking, why can I never receive a compliment? Maybe you should ask, what is this person seeing in me that I have not yet allowed myself to see? See that? Maybe instead of asking the question, why does this keep happening to me? Maybe you can ask, what is the one small thing I can do differently today? And the brain will search for an answer to whatever you ask. So the question determines where it looks. It will go to the file. It will search through the evidence. And the question is what will determine the answer that it gives you. Ask it to look backward at the old evidence, and it will find it through the disempowering questions. Ask it to look forward to the new possibility, and it will find that instead through empowering questions. And that is how you begin to reach the subconscious during the hours when your theta window is closed, during your waking hours. Not by forcing a new belief, but by asking a question that points towards a new one. I want to say something personal here. I spent years trying to push past my patterns by willpower alone, by deciding to be different, by understanding where the patterns came from, and expecting that understanding alone would be enough. Not because I was not trying hard enough, but because I was trying in the wrong language. The subconscious does not speak willpower. It does not speak understanding. It speaks repetition, emotion, state. And the moment I stopped trying to force the change and started creating the conditions for it, something shifted. The shift didn't happen all at once, but in small incremental steps. The more I took up space, the more I spoke up, the more I did things afraid, the more I realized the world did not end. The more evidence accumulated. And that contradicted the 9-year-old's conclusion. And slowly, the new file began to speak louder. I'm still in the process, and I will not pretend otherwise. But I'm further along, very further along than I was. And the distance between where I was and where I am now was not covered by knowing, or reading more books, or listening to more podcasts, or just knowing more. It was covered by doing, repeatedly, imperfectly, one room at a time. Here is your one action this week. Choose one power question, an empowering question. Write it on a book. Put it somewhere that you will see it. In the 20 minutes after you wake up, before the day begins, before your phone, before the plan, say it aloud. Every morning this week, 7 days. Not because 1 week will rewire everything, but because 7 repetitions during your theta window is 7 more than you have ever given new programs before. And every repetition counts. And here are 3 to choose from. And you can make up your own, but you can choose from these 3. What would the version of me who knows our value today do? What is the one thing I can do today that the old pattern would have stopped me from doing? What am I becoming that the cage was too small to hold? So pick one, write it down, say it aloud, 7 mornings. That's the beginning. The nervousness in the gated communities that I have lived in, is still there sometimes. I'm not going to say it has gone completely, but I notice it now in a way I did not before. And noticing it means I have a choice that the automatic program never gave me. I can feel it, I can name it, I can trace it back to my grandmother's fireside chat, and thank it for keeping me safe all these years, and then choose differently. Not because the program disappeared, but because I'm no longer running on autopilot. And that's the difference between knowing and rewiring. Because knowing sees the cage, rewiring walks out of it. One step, one room, one morning question at a time. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. You do not wait for the outer world to confirm who you are becoming. You practice her every morning in the window when your subconscious mind is listening until she becomes the loudest in the room. And that is the rewire. I'm Rose. Thank you for being here. If this episode has helped you understand why the knowing has not been enough, share it with one person who is still waiting for understanding to be sufficient. Leave a comment. Tell me, what is your power question this week? It would be great to know. Subscribe to the channel. We have new episodes every Tuesday. And next week, we are going to move out of reflect and into the E in rewire. We are going to go to evaluate. Because now that you can see the pattern, now that you understand the mechanism, it is time to do something specific, to question the beliefs you're carrying, to ask, where did this come from? Is it still true? Does it still deserve to travel with me? That conversation will start next Tuesday, and I'll see you there. Don't just listen, rewire.